Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the Natalie Wisewoman podcast, where I discuss different topics related to becoming your highest potential. Enjoy this episode. Today, I'm welcoming Virginia Underwood to the Natalie Wisewoman podcast. She's another human on the Wisewoman path, living her highest potential. She's a friend that I met in Peru, and we have it was a fun story of how we kind of met and how many synchronicities and common things there were. And we'll talk about that later. But first, I would like you, Virginia, to tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Natalie, for having me on your show. It's such an honor to be here and to get to spend some time with you again. I always love seeing your face. And about me, I'm kind of a jack of all trades in a sort of way, but really it all boils down to I help people to heal. I help people to come back to the truth of who they are. And I can do this because this is what I have done for myself. I am an oracle, a Reiki master. I have a background in counseling and teaching. I've been meditating for probably 30 years, been doing Reiki for about the same amount. So really an energy worker, subtle energy worker, subtle energy practitioner, could be what you could call me. Yeah. So I help people reconnect to the truth of who they are, to the essence, to help them to move towards their life purpose in a more conscious way.
We met in Peru, and we were both at the Soltara retreat in Tarapoto, and we knew that we were going to have a shared room. So basically, we knew that we were going to share the room with someone that we didn't know who that was going to be. And the first day when we arrived, I remember they told me that I was going to share the room with a woman that was about my age, and she was also from Europe. So I was kind of excited. Okay, yeah, that's going to be fun. Like, we probably have a lot of things to talk about. And then she was there actually with her friend. So I remember that I asked her, like, is there a reason that you didn't want to stay with your friend in the same room? And she just told me that, no, they didn't really think about, asking for, to stay in the same room. And I think it was a couple of hours later on the first day, she came up to me and kind of kindly asked, if it would be okay for her to actually change rooms and go and stay with her friend. And I was really open to anything that universe was going to bring in. Like, I knew that I was going to have the perfect roommate, and he was going to, I just trusted. So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, it's fine. And then, they told me that Virginia is going to be your roommate. And I don't think I talked to you before that. And then I remember you were sitting on the bench outside, and then I came to you and said, like, oh, we're going to be roommates. And then we started talking, and I think it was quite interesting, all the things that kind of came up. And I think one of the main things were that, everyone comes to these retreats with different intentions. And I think we were the only ones that had a different intention that was kind of that we didn't really know why we came there, but we had a strong guidance. For example, I had in journeying, shamanic journeying, which is done with a drum. I had Mother Ayahuasca come to me and kind of ask me to come to Peru. And I think in a breathwork session, it came up again and kind of like, just come to Peru, like repeating. And I think you had a similar experience. You can share how you were called to come to Peru.
Yeah, very similar experiences. I had gone to a self-inquiry retreat in June of this year. And at the leaving it, I had so much clarity about life. And I came home and went to a breathwork ceremony, and I heard it's time to go to Peru. I mean, I had the imagery. I was a condor flying through the Andes Mountains, and I was told it's time to go to Peru. And then that kept happening. Every breathwork ceremony I went to, I kept getting told it's time to go to Peru. You need to make plans to go to Peru. And there was actually one night where I was making dinner and I was contemplating it and like, do I really need to go to Peru? I don't, because I knew that I was going to go for a retreat and to work with Mama Aya. And I was like, do I really need to go to South America to do this? Like, can't I do this, find somewhere closer? I'm sure I can find somewhere closer. And so I'm making dinner and Frank Sinatra's song, Come Fly With Me, comes on. And I'm literally asking my question, should I really go to Peru? And one line of his song says, come on, let's go to Peru. I was like, okay, all right, I can't deny that any longer.
Yeah, it's
so
very clear.
I started making plans.
Yes. And I think when we were talking on the bench, I think you mentioned that you're going to open a retreat center. And then I was like, oh my God, like, this is like beautiful. Like, I'm also going to open, and it's a very like going to happen very soon for both of us. Kind of, we were having these same plans of what we wanted to do with our business. And I think that was very exciting. And also that I had been digging deep into shamanic journeying this year, and you're teaching journeying, right? In your classes. And then we were talking some more, and I was saying that I'm starting therapist training, and you're a counselor, and that was like, of course, like the same. And I think we also, it came up that you had separated this year, and me too. So that was also similar. And I think the kind of the cherry on top of everything was that I think I said something about that I'm a Pisces, and then you asked me what my birthday is. And I said March 14th, and you were like, okay, that's also my birthday.
Too weird.
Yeah. And then we had a very similar chart in like human design as well, same birthday and all that. But I think it was just, well, I feel like there's so many things like this happening to me nowadays, like synchronicities and things. I'm just like laughing, like, oh, of course this will happen. Like she's my roommate, and she's like, I don't think I've met someone who has so many things like just in common, where it's a perfect match. And the way we look at spirituality was also like, it was very easy. It is very easy to talk about these things with you. And
I agree completely. That's amazing.
I was just very excited when all these things came, and I was like, wow, well, this will be a very beautiful week to spend, in the same room and kind of after ceremony, like share the experience with this human being.
Yes, and it was. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed the time that we got to share and all of the insights and, conversations that we enjoyed.
Absolutely. So let's talk about something which is part of becoming your highest potential. So I think you didn't mention it maybe before, but you're doing also soul purpose readings.
Yes.
and you did one for me. So I want to really dig into that, what it is about, and kind of how people can, use that to become their highest potential. Because I really believe that if we learn about ourselves, then we can, through that become our potential. And this is a tool to learn more about yourself, who we are and what we came here to do. And really about remembering. And I think you said on the retreat, you said that remember is like remember. So you're kind of collecting something that you already have. And I think that's so beautiful. And before we dig into the soul purpose reading, I just wanted to share a little introductory story that is related to the topic. So in the kind of spiritual teachings, there is this belief of that there are spirit babies. So basically, before we come into this human body, if you believe that the soul is eternal, then it must exist before it incarnates into this world. And then basically you would believe that there is something that we could call a spirit baby. So it's a soul that doesn't have a body. And in some teachings, you can talk about this more, but they believe that the spirit baby actually chooses its own name. And it's actually, there is a Disney movie about spirit babies. It's called Soul. So I think it's funny. It's about different spirits that are waiting to come to Earth. But anyway, and I've had experience with spirit babies and this choosing the name thing. So I do believe in it, but I ask everyone to keep an open mind and just think about if it makes sense to them or not. But I wanted to dig deeper into what my name actually means. So I've never looked at what Natalie means. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I started Googling, and I found out that Natalie actually means the birth of Christ. So Christmas. So my name is basically Christmas. And I was like, of course it is. I'm the most Christmas spirited person, that I know, not in a consumption way, but just in the spirited way, that I'm so excited about all of December and Christmas. And even though it's a very depressing and dark time in Finland, 21st of December is the darkest day here in Finland. And still, I find that Christmas time is very exciting. I'm kind of almost in the closet about my excitement, because not so many people around me are so excited about Christmas, but I'm like, of course I chose that name for myself, because it's kind of, it's something that is very deep in me. And I think that was just interesting to find out. But yeah, let's get into the soul purpose readings. And it is related to names and choosing our own name and what that means. So could you explain what a soul purpose reading is and what someone can do with that information?
Yes. Yeah. And I love that story, Natalie. That's awesome. It totally makes sense and fits your personality even more, knowing what it means. That's really cool. So a soul purpose reading, what I do is it's based off the Hebrew alphabet. So there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and they are what are considered fire letters or creation codes. And really, if you think about it, sound, and I think it even says this in the Bible that, God first, one of the first things that he did was make the word, and the word is sound, and sound is what is creating everything. We are energy and we are vibrating, and sound is vibration. So it just makes sense to me anyway, that our names are going to be creating our actual reality that we experience in life, in each of these lifetimes. And so, yeah, so what I believe is that, like you said, the souls choose their names, And so there's a bigger process, right? I mean, we have a purpose, we have things that we want to learn as souls in each incarnation that we experience. And so what I believe is that we, possibly with help, choose a name that's going to have a vibration that fits the goals and purposes that we as a soul want to grow through, want to work on. So before you come in, you whisper this name to whomever is going to name you. And in different cultures, that looks different. You know, in certain cultures, the parents name the children, and others grandparents or elders, or, you know, there are so many different ways that children get their names. But whomever is naming that child is going to receive guidance on what that name should be. And I know in my case, when I think back to naming my children, it very much felt like an inspired process. I didn't feel like I came up with a name. I felt like the name came to me. And I could tell right away with each child that this name fit them. It's just a fascinating process. But anyway, so these energies can teach us so much about who we are. So they can tell us where we've come from. And I don't mean like physically where we came from, but what karma we are still working through, what we didn't complete in previous incarnations that we now have an opportunity in this incarnation to, you know, find the meaning and complete the whole. So what I see with karma is that we, whether it's negative or positive, it's just one end of a spectrum. And so we're working through like that whole spectrum to complete the karma. So we understand this experience or emotion, or does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So we can look at that. We can look at what karma we're working through in all its various forms. Then we can look at the talents that you have brought in, or that your soul has chosen for you to help you work through this karma, as well as to help move you towards the goals that the soul has for this lifetime. You know, the major things and understandings that the soul wants to come to in this particular incarnation. And then finally, we have like what we'd say we would call our destiny, like the bigger purpose for what we came to do. And I believe that we have, you know, like practical purposes. We have all different kinds of purposes. We don't just have one purpose. You know, like I said, we're cleaning up stuff from past lives, and we're learning new things for this life and to move us forward. But there's a bigger overarching theme that kind of ties all of these purposes together. And so we can look at that as well to see really what direction your soul is headed in. And all of this leads to your highest potential. How, you know, when we understand our karma and these limiting beliefs, truly that's what it boils down to, is we have accepted a particular set of limiting beliefs in our life that are shaping how we behave and the actions we take and how we're received by others in the world. So the more that we can understand those limiting beliefs, we can change them. We can, you know, awareness is the first step to changing anything. And then we can move towards the gold. You know, whatever karma we're carrying is really our greatest gifts and our highest potential for what we can do in this lifetime. So we look at all of that in a reading. And then I can give you tips and different ways to help you work with that energy to reach your highest potential.
Yes. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's so many things that were like spot on, or basically everything felt like it resonated with me when we did the soul purpose reading. We had one a couple of weeks ago, and it's interesting because this year has been really about trying to remember who I am and understand what my purpose is. And I've been working, seeing different like psychics and mediums and stuff, and in my own ceremonies, and then doing this soul purpose reading with you. And it seems like everything seems like all these things are saying the same things. Like for me, it makes sense. It's like they would have more conflicting information if it would not be true. So for me, I think it's very interesting, and it feels so beautiful to kind of confirm these things and remember that, wow, okay, I have this purpose. So I think it's really meaningful. It was very meaningful for me to get a reading from you.
I'm so honored. Thank you. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because all of these different tools do correspond. Like all of the information is very complementary, and it's really it's the same thing, but it's said slightly different, which just helps you to integrate it even more. It's such a beautiful thing when you start to learn about yourself.
The name is the main thing of which the kind of the numbers are generated, right? So can you tell me what happens if someone changes their name? Because that's very common when you get married, or someone might just want to change their name. So how does that affect your soul's
great
purpose?
Question. Yeah, that's a great question. So each name is, I call it that you wear, is going to affect your soul blueprint in some way. So what I mean by that is that your birth name is what your soul blueprint truly is. This is the work that you came here to do. This is the goals that your soul came to, work towards. So you're always working with that birth name blueprint, whether it's ever spoken again in your life past birth, it's still what you came in here with. So that energy is never going to change. But like you said, people get married, people change their names, stuff happens in life, and maybe you get called a nickname. There are so many different names that we wear, and each one of them is absolutely going to have an effect. So again, if we look at sound and vibration, we really want to look at how often that name is sounded in your world. When people in your life call your name, what are they saying? Because that energy is affecting that birth blueprint. So it's either affecting it in a positive way, which is complementing and helping and strengthening those codes that you have, helping you to learn, maybe a little easier than if you didn't have the codes. Or on the flip side, the codes may be conflicting. And so that's causing friction, and it's causing more challenges in your life. So that's also an area that we look at in your reading. I will ask you to give me up to 3 what I would call overlay names that are sounded in your life. And so we'll look at each of those overlays and how they play a role in your life.
So it might change, but there is always the foundation is the same, because that's the birth name that you have. And then
Correct.
some small things might change there of how it kind of goes. And you've done a lot of soul purpose readings. So have you ever encountered a situation where someone's just like, this doesn't make any sense to me, like it
No.
doesn't resonate?
Nope. I have not experienced a single person who has said that.
That's very
Every
cool.
single person, yeah, has been really blown away, because it's amazing that something like this. And if you've ever done astrology, I do astrology as well. And that's always blown my mind when you get really deep into it, how accurate it is for your life. So it's just one of those tools that you just can't deny.
Yes. And like I said, like from so many different people and readings, and from myself in ceremony, kind of I've gotten the same things. So for me, it just confirms everything. I want to go into some of the numbers that I had on my chart and kind of ask you what they mean, so
Sure.
that people can kind of get an understanding of what can come up with the numbers and so forth. So I had the main number of 9. Can you kind of explain what that means? That's like the soul purpose, like the big purpose, right? The number that you have.
Well, okay, so some people have what's called a dominant vibration, which means that they have repeating numbers in their blueprint. And numbers are really in reference to letters, but to simplify the process, we use numbers instead of the Hebrew letters. So the centerpiece of your chart contains your soul destiny, and that is the overarching theme of your chart. And so that's going to it's going to touch each of the purposes. And what I mean by that is that it's going to influence each of the purposes that you have in your life, because it's really what's tying them all together. A dominant vibration, on the other hand, means that you have at least 4 of these same codes in your chart, which means that your soul very much wants you to learn about this energy, what it represents, and how you can best utilize it to create your highest potential. So it just depends on which one you're talking about. 9 energy itself, it's an incredibly powerful code. I would say the most powerful code in the entire Hebrew alphabet. It's called divine power. That's its, what we refer to it as. And it's represented by like the image of the snake or of a dragon, that ancient, just primal power is really what it is. And so with 9 anywhere in your chart, it is really activating all the codes around you. It also is making it, okay, so anybody in your life is being affected by your codes as well. So having a 9 in your chart is not only giving you power, but it's also creating opportunities for powerful transformation in those around you. So really, someone with a 9 in their chart is a catalyst. They are here to be in service in a way that helps others to transform in some shape or form.
And I think you said to me that it's kind of about like the ability to transform all challenges into gifts.
Yes.
And kind of here to affect change and kind of a way shower, that kind of
Absolutely.
person. Then also I had I don't know if you can call it like a double 8 in the challenges. And I think you also said that you have an 8 there, and that it's a very, very strong challenge, or how would you say? Can you explain what the 8 is?
Yes. So 8 is a very earthy energy. It is what we would say is the highest vibrating earth energy available. So it's very connected to the earth. And what I mean by that is the emotions, because this is really one of the only places that we experience emotion is on the earth plane. I'm sure there are other places in other universes, but for us, it's earth. And so with 8 energy, we are being tasked with understanding our emotions and understanding emotions in general. So when we have an 8 in a challenge, it means that you probably haven't been here to Earth, excuse me, that many incarnations. You have most likely come from different star systems, and now we're getting really out there in terms of beliefs. But, you know, I believe there is much more to life than just on this planet Earth. I believe that there's life in so many different solar systems and so forth. So what the 8 energy is really telling us is that you aren't from Earth, that you have extraterrestrial, if you will, energies, and that you have come here to Earth to master the emotional plane in order to, again, like the 9 energy, to be a way shower to others of what's possible and how we can really control our emotions to work towards our highest potential. So the meaning of the 8 is divine values, because when we are in touch with our emotions, we can truly understand ourselves at a deeper level and understand what we value in this lifetime. So that's what that energy is connecting to. It's also the energy of the empath. So it's, you know, again, we're getting in touch with the emotions. So it's not just our own emotions, but it's the emotions of all of the people and even animals, the creatures around us. So we can, it's really the energy of the shaman. It's that shape shifting, you know, being able to put yourself into another's shoes and to understand life from their perspective.
Yes. And I think that's it's interesting you said that those people that have the 8 there is kind of, they can have a hard time with boundaries because they feel other people's emotions because they're so empathic that they don't want them to have, you know, they don't want them to feel bad because they actually feel the other person's emotions. So it's kind of like you have a hard time putting boundaries. You just want to give, and then you kind of,
Yes.
So you have to learn that. And that's really something that I'm working on very, very strongly.
Yes. Yeah. And it's you know, that's one of our things to work on when we have it in challenge, is to set those clear boundaries, and really to be that example for others, because that's what's going to help them to heal, you know, not us trying to fix it, but giving that firm boundary and showing them what's possible.
That's beautiful. And it's also interesting that if I look at my human design chart, my greatest gift is 36, which is solving emotional issues. So basically it kind of connects with this, like just feeling and emotions is a very, very big theme. And I know that I feel very, very deeply, and it's something that I've been kind of, and you said that it can happen that people try to stay in their head a lot because they don't want to feel. It's just so strong if they have this 8. And I think that's what I've done most of my life, and kind of distracting myself, with food and with different things, so that I won't feel so strongly. I feel also the ups very strongly. So it's like very nice. I feel very, happy and joyful, but then, the other spectrum as well, and other people's emotions. So it can be rough sometimes, and you just want to like run away from your emotions. And I think we also discussed this, that I've been performing on theater stage since I was 8 years old, and my kind of acting skills come from the ability to actually, that my empathic ability to feel, to know how someone is feeling in a certain kind of, when you want to embody something. I know how to do that because I know what that feels like. And you said as well that if you look at some of the greatest actresses and actors, they will have probably an 8 in their challenges. So I think that was also interesting.
Yeah, somewhere in their chart, they're going to have an 8. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you also, I think you said that I have a 13 in my challenges, and that was a master number. So you mentioned something that a person like that is great with numbers and managing resources. And it's interesting that I chose my educational path in finance, and, just,
the
yeah.
13-4. Yeah. That's all about abundance and nurturing, and so when we truly know abundance, it's because we understand not necessarily numbers, but the energy of numbers and how they work together. And we know that when we give something, that energy comes back. That 13 energy is called the Divine Mother, and it's that nurturing ability. And, whatever we nurture tends to grow. So, yeah, that's a beautiful code to have. All of the codes, I mean, I love all of them.
And we all have them for a specific reason. So,
Yeah. And truly, we have access to all 22 of these codes. It's not like just because you have a particular set of codes in your chart, it doesn't mean that you aren't accessing every other code in the alphabet. You are. I mean, look at the words that we're speaking each day. All of these are made up of these different energies, and they are creating something in your life. So you're constantly using these codes.
Yes, we have to be careful with our words, because they do manifest, and they, create our reality as well. So,
well, right. Like in the United States, it's no coincidence that we have something called spelling, which is, knowing what words what letters make up certain words. That's spelling. And what do witches do? They create spells on you. That's what we're doing with our words each day. We are creating spells that we are casting, that are either creating the outcomes that we want or that we don't want.
In my goals, I had 18, 9, and you said that the 18 is kind of a CEO energy, someone who understands business and kind of decision-making skills. And it's interesting because for a very long time, I had this idea that, I'm going to be a CEO. I actually had a woman when I was, I think, 14. She was a psychic, and she just came up to me and my friends in a restaurant, and she told us all what our kind of purpose was. And she told me that I was going to be a leader, which I didn't like at the time, but I, kept it with me. And then when I started studying business, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to be a CEO. That's like my thing. And I like to lead things. And now it's maybe changing into some other shapes, the kind of leadership stuff. But I think that was interesting that also came up in my kind of my chart, and the 9 being the entrepreneurial energy then. So
Yes. Yeah, 18 is called divine solution. So it's very much about problem solving and that creativity of being able to think outside of the box, and really to see what others don't see. Coupled with that 9 energy, which is very entrepreneurial, very much, like I said earlier, a service energy, wants to be of service in the world and do something that's going to help others, be successful or have a positive outcome.
yes, I feel very in alignment, just hearing this and feeling like, okay, that's actually the path that I'm on. And I've known that I wanted to be an entrepreneur for a long time. And also in some spiritual teachings, it is believed that the soul also chooses the family that, you incarnate into. And then I think it's funny that I chose the family that I chose. So it's very obvious to me, like if I have this very strong entrepreneurial energy, being from a family that has a very strong entrepreneurial background, getting that confidence that I can do this. And, so I think that's part of.
Yes. Yeah. We, as souls, we're going to give ourselves all the tools that we can, all the support that we can. And sometimes that support looks like opposition or challenge, but really it's there to help us to grow and to uncover the gifts of those experiences. So yeah, you chose your parents definitely for their entrepreneurial abilities and so much more.
Yeah, it's very exciting. In the gifts, you also mentioned that I have this gift, or I will develop this gift, because you said that gifts are something also that can come kind of later in life, that I can access them more easily later. And one of them was that I'm going to be able to balance masculine and feminine energy. And it's funny because that's one of the biggest themes in actually my Peru trip. I could just label it like balancing feminine and masculine energy. And I'm talking about that in another episode, but I think that was beautiful that it came up in the gifts as well, that's something. And I think, I'm getting there. I've been very much in the masculine most of my life, but I do have this very strong nurturing motherly energy, and I'm doing that more, where I'm like being in the receptive mode more and not just pushing things, and developing that gift.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, the talents. So you were saying some develop later. We have like our physical purposes that we come in to build the foundation. And then we have our spiritual purposes that we then build on top of that foundation. And so we have the physical talent that's going to help us with that foundational aspect. And then our spiritual talent, which is going to help us to develop those higher ideals, that higher consciousness. So yeah, you move into the spiritual energy around your early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. And that's when we generally think of people having the midlife crisis, where they completely, upend their life and change it 180 degrees. That's usually when that spiritual energy comes online and they're like, okay, wait, it's time to do something different. It's time to change gears.
Yes, I think this is just, it's very empowering getting this kind of reading. And it's sometimes it can be like hard to even like talk about this, because it's like, oh, I'm just like bragging about different things. But it's like you said, I think like who's gonna, like if we are not able to say these things out loud, then who's gonna, do that for our soul, just embody that, like, okay, this is who I am. I have this, soul purpose that is has these different aspects. And if we cannot, like, if we're ashamed of that and not able to talk about it, then,
when we empower ourselves, that's the best thing that we can do for anybody else. If we have children, by us empowering ourselves, by us telling ourselves we're great, we're then giving our children permission to feel the same way about themselves. Each time we say out loud how amazing we are, we're giving somebody else in this world permission to feel that way about themselves. It's not bragging. You're not saying that you're better than anyone else. You're saying that this is the value that you bring to the world. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're comparing yourself with someone else, that's one thing. But this is simply stating, I am an entrepreneur, or I am amazing, or whatever thing you want to put there. And you deserve that. Everyone deserves to feel that way about themselves.
Yes, I think that's beautiful, that when you can do it, then you kind of give the permission for others to do it. And I don't think anyone will, like, by you playing small, that will not benefit, like that's not your highest potential, and that will not benefit the world in the most highest, best way, but you being who you came here to be and embodying that, I think that's your highest potential. So
yes, we are like snowflakes. There are no two of us alike. You may have been born with a twin. That does not mean that you are the same as your twin. I have twin cousins, and they have some similarities about them, but they are totally different people. They have totally different experiences of what they went through in life and how they perceived those experiences in their life. That unique perspective is important, just as important as any other perspective.
Well, thank you for, giving me this the reading that we had before, and also discussing these things more, in depth. And I feel, this confirms what I already kind of knew, and some new things about it. And there were just so many things where I was like, you told me what it meant, and I was like, well, you said like, oh, you could write a book, and I was like, well, I already started, and you were like, of course you did. And it's like, yes, all these things that kind of, it just makes a lot of sense. So I can highly recommend, if this resonates with anyone, I can recommend to get a soul purpose reading. If someone wants to get a reading or get in contact with kind of what you're doing, you have some courses and some happening, like events in the US as well. Like, where can they find you? What's your email, your website?
Yeah. So I do a lot of things live in where I'm at in the United States, in Oklahoma. I really, like you said, I'm building a retreat center, so I'm working towards building my community. So it's really important to do the local thing. But I also do a few things online. I hold a monthly new moon call that's on Zoom, and anybody can join. We talk about the energies that are occurring at this new moon and how you can work with them and how you can release things that are no longer serving you, that sort of thing. Completely free. You just sign up on my website. The website is eighthchakra.com. So it's spelled out the word EIGHTH chakra, CHAKRA.com. And then I'm also on Facebook at Healing with Your Higher Self, and on Instagram, Eighth Chakra Healing. We also have a YouTube channel, Eighth Chakra. So a couple of different platforms that we are on. And
if someone wants to get a reading, what's the best way to contact you?
So the best way to contact me for a reading is to go to the website, eighthchakra.com, and on the menu, if you look under shop, there should be a pull down, and the soul purpose reading is actually one of the pull downs. So if you click on that, you can book through there, and there's a calendar, and everything that you need is right there on the website.
Perfect. Thank you so much for participating in this episode. I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy I got to speak with you again. You're such a beautiful energy, and I know that our paths will meet again.
Thank you, Natalie. It has been such a pleasure. I always enjoy spending time with you, and I absolutely will look forward to another in-person meeting sometime in the near future. Thank you very much for having me on your show today. It has been fun, and I hope somebody got something from it.
If after listening to this episode, you feel inspired to get a soul purpose reading yourself, I'm happy to offer you a 10% discount with Wisewoman 10. So go to 8-chakra.com, and under shop you can find soul purpose readings, and with the code Wisewoman 10 you get 10% off.
Sounds good.